32. I'm 30. I found my Amish wife's secret diary after 60 years. The diary is bound in brown leather, the color of a saddle left out in too many rains, and the first time I held it in my own hands, I was 91 years old. Rebecca had been dead 4 days. The undertaker's wagon had come and gone. The women had washed her and dressed her in the white cape she sewed herself at 17, and the house finally stood empty enough for me to climb the narrow stairs to the cedar chest at the foot of our bed. I thought I was looking for her wedding handkerchief. I found the diary instead, wrapped in a piece of unbleached muslin, tied with a strip of blue cloth I did not recognize. On the first page, in her small, careful hand, she had written, "For Joseph, if he ever asks." He never did. I want to tell you, my name is Joseph Yoder, and I was 30 years old the year I should have asked. That is the part of this story I cannot put down. I was 30, and Rebecca was 28, and we had been married 7 years, and something happened that spring that I chose not to see. 60 years later, the diary made me see it. Before I open those pages for you, you should understand what the book looked like in our house for most of our marriage. It sat on the small pine table on Rebecca's side of the bed, beneath her prayer cap when she slept, beside the oil lamp she trimmed every Saturday. I thought it was a devotional book. Many of the women in our district kept one, a place to copy verses, to record the births of children, to mark the days the garden was planted. I never opened it. In the community where I grew up, a man did not read what a woman wrote in her own hand unless she offered it. Rebecca never offered. For 53 years, I watched her write in that book almost every night. She would wait until the children were asleep and the kitchen was swept, and she would sit up in bed with the lamp turned low, and she would write for perhaps 10 minutes, sometimes 20. Then she would close the book, kiss the cover once, and slide it beneath her cap. I used to tease her, gently, that she was writing love letters to the Lord. She would smile and say something like that, "Joseph," and I would turn over and sleep, and I would not think about it again until the next night, when the lamp came on, and the small scratching of her pen began again like a cricket in the wall. I want you to picture that sound, because it is the sound of my whole marriage. I did not know it then. We were married in November of 1958. I was 23, she was 21. Her family farmed 2 miles east of ours, on land that ran down to a creek where the watercress grew thick in May. I had known Rebecca since she was a child, but I did not court her until the summer she turned 20. She was quiet then, not shy exactly, but careful, as though every sentence she spoke had been weighed on a small scale before she let it out of her mouth. Her mother, Anna, was the same way. Her father, Eli, was not. He was a loud man who laughed too easily and signed papers without reading them. I mention him because he matters later. The first year of our marriage was a good year. I will not pretend it was not. Rebecca kept a clean house, and she sang while she scrubbed the floorboards, and she made apple butter that the neighbors begged for. She was already writing in the diary then. I remember the night I first noticed it, perhaps 6 weeks after the wedding. I came up the stairs and found her bent over the book, and she closed it so quickly that the pen left a small black mark on the quilt. I asked her what it was. She said, "A place where I keep my thoughts." I asked if I might read it sometime. She did not answer right away. Then she said, "When I am gone, Joseph, not before." I laughed. I was young enough to laugh at the idea of her being gone. I said, "Then you had better outlive me, because I am not a patient man." She did not laugh back. She only looked at me for a long moment, and then she said, "I will try." That was the first strange thing about the book. The second came 2 years later. Our first child, Daniel, was born in the spring of 1961. It was a hard birth. Rebecca labored for almost 2 days, and the midwife sent a boy on a bicycle to fetch the English doctor from town, and when the doctor came he stayed for 6 hours and would not let me into the room. When it was finished, Rebecca was pale as paper and could not lift her arms, and the doctor took me aside on the porch and told me there would be no more children. He said the damage was such that another pregnancy would likely kill her. I thanked him. I paid him in cash from the tin behind the flour, and I went back inside and held my son and told my wife I loved her, and that one child was a blessing enough. She nodded. She did not speak. She turned her face to the wall. That night, when she had strength enough to sit up, she asked me to bring her the book. I did. She wrote for almost an hour. When she finished, she did not slide it beneath her cap. She held it against her chest and cried without sound, the way Amish women cry, with the shoulders moving and the face still. I asked her what was wrong. She said, "Nothing you can fix, Joseph." I took that to mean grief over the children we would not have. I see now it meant something else entirely. We had Daniel, and then by a small miracle that the doctor could not explain, we had Mary 4 years later, and then Sarah 2 years after that, and the doctor's prediction was wrong, or perhaps God simply does as he pleases. Rebecca survived all 3 births. She grew thinner each time, and quieter, but she survived, and every night the lamp came on, and the pen began to move. I want to tell you now about the spring I was 30, because that is the year the title of this story belongs to, though I did not understand it until last week. It was April of 1965. Mary was a baby. Daniel was 4. We had taken in Rebecca's younger sister, Lydia, who was 17 and unmarried, and helping with the children, while Rebecca recovered from Mary's birth. Lydia stayed in the small bedroom at the back of the house, the one that looked out over the woodlot. She was a sweet girl, plainer than Rebecca, with hands that were always red from work. She stayed with us for 6 weeks. In the 5th week, something happened that I have never spoken about to any living person. I will not dramatize it. I will tell it the way it occurred. One evening, after Rebecca was already asleep, I went down to the kitchen for water, and Lydia was sitting at the table in her nightdress, weeping. I asked her what was wrong. She would not answer at first. Then she said her father had written to say she must come home the following week, because a marriage had been arranged for her with a widower in the next district, a man of 46 with 4 children. She did not want to go. She asked me, with her face in her hands, if there was any way Rebecca and I might keep her with us instead. I told her I would speak to Eli. I told her not to cry. I put my hand on her shoulder for perhaps 3 seconds, and then I took it away, and I went back upstairs. That was all that happened. I have sworn it to God, and I swear it now. But when I came into the bedroom, the lamp was on. Rebecca was sitting up. The book was open on her lap. She was not writing. She was watching the door. She said, "Was that Lydia crying?" I said yes, and I told her about the marriage, and I said I would speak to her father in the morning. Rebecca listened without moving. When I finished, she closed the book and slid it beneath her cap, and she turned down the lamp, and she said, "Go to sleep, Joseph." I never spoke to Eli. The next morning, Lydia was gone. Her bag was packed and she had walked the 2 miles home before sunrise. 3 months later, she was married to the widower. She died in childbirth 4 years after that. I went to her funeral. Rebecca did not. I told myself for 60 years that Rebecca did not attend because she was sick that week. She was sick that week, that part is true, but there was something else in her face when I came home from the burial, something I did not have a name for then. She asked me only one question. She asked, "Did he weep?" I said yes. The widower wept. Rebecca nodded once and said, "Good." Then she went to the garden and pulled weeds until dark. That night, the pen scratched longer than usual. I am telling you these things out of order, the way the diary told them to me, because when I sat down 4 days ago with the brown leather book in my lap, I did not read it from beginning to end. I opened it at random, the way a frightened man opens a Bible. And the first entry my eyes fell on was dated April 19th, 1965. It said, "Joseph touched her shoulder tonight. I saw it through the crack in the door. I do not believe he meant anything by it. But I have learned that what men mean and what men do are 2 different rivers, and a woman drowns in both." I closed the book. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Then I opened it again, at the beginning this time, and I began to read from the first page, and I did not stop until I had read every word she wrote for 53 years. I learned things I cannot tell you all of. Some of them belong to her alone, and now that she is gone, they belong to no one. But I will tell you the shape of what she carried, because the shape is the answer to the title of this story. Rebecca did not love me when she married me. She had loved a boy named Amish King, who had left the community at 19 to join the Mennonites and then the world beyond them. He had written her 3 letters in the year before our wedding, asking her to come away with him. She had burned the first 2. The third she kept. It was tucked into the back of the diary, the paper soft as cloth from being folded and unfolded for 60 years. She had not gone with him because her mother, Anna, had told her that if she did, Eli would disown her younger sisters as well, out of shame. Anna had said this calmly, over a bowl of green beans, and Rebecca had understood that her mother was not threatening her. Her mother was telling her what Eli would do, because Anna had lived with him for 26 years and knew. So Rebecca had stayed, and when I came to court her the next summer, she had said yes, because I was kind, and because saying yes to me meant her sisters would be safe. She wrote, in the entry dated the night before our wedding, "Joseph is a good man. I will try to become a woman who deserves him. If I cannot become her, I will at least become someone who does not harm him with the truth." I read that line, and I put the book down, and I went out to the porch, and I sat in the dark for an hour. I am 91. There is not much left in me to break. But something broke. She had tried. God in heaven, she had tried. The diary was full of small mercies she performed on my behalf. The apple butter she made because she knew I loved it. The shirt she mended 3 times so I would not have to buy another. The prayers she said for me on the mornings I left for the fields, angry about some small thing. She had loved me in the end. The entries from the last 20 years are full of it. But she had not loved me at the beginning, and she had carried the knowledge of that absence alone, because she believed telling me would be a cruelty greater than the silence. And then there was Lydia. I went back to the entries around the spring of 1965. I read them slowly. I learned that Rebecca had known, before Lydia ever came to stay with us, that her sister was in love with a boy named Jonas from the neighboring district. Jonas had wanted to marry her. Eli had refused, because Jonas's family was poor. Eli had arranged the widower instead, and Anna had begged Rebecca to take Lydia in for a few weeks, hoping that being away from home might soften Eli's heart. It did not. And in those 6 weeks, Rebecca watched her sister wither, and she watched her husband, me, be kind to her sister, and she began to wonder if perhaps the kindest thing she could do for Lydia was to give her up entirely. To let her go to the widower, because the alternative, in Rebecca's mind, was that Lydia would stay in our house too long and grow too attached to the only gentle man she had ever known, and that something terrible would happen that no one had intended. Rebecca wrote, "I love my sister. I love my husband. I do not believe either of them would ever sin against me. But I have seen what loneliness does to good people, and I will not test them. I will send her home." She had gone down to the kitchen that night. After I went back upstairs, she had spoken to Lydia. She had told her, gently but without room for argument, that she must go home in the morning and marry the widower, because there was no other path. Lydia had wept. Rebecca had held her. And then Rebecca had come back upstairs and written the entry I read first, 60 years later. She had not been jealous of her sister. She had been protecting all 3 of us, Lydia, me, and herself, from a future she could see and we could not. When Lydia died in childbirth 4 years later, Rebecca blamed herself. The entries from that summer are the hardest to read. She wrote over and over, in different words, "I sent her to that house. I sent her to that man. I chose my marriage over her life. I want to tell you that I went upstairs and held her and told her it was not her fault. I want to tell you that. But I did not know, because she did not tell me, because she had decided when she was 21 years old that she would never harm me with the truth. For 60 years I slept beside a woman who was performing an act of love so complete that I mistook it for ordinary marriage. There is more in the book than I can repeat here. There is an entry from the year our daughter Mary nearly died of fever, in which Rebecca writes that she offered her own life to God in trade, and was disappointed when he did not take it. There is an entry from the day Daniel left for Indiana with his new wife, in which Rebecca writes that she stood in the road until the buggy was out of sight, and then went into the barn and screamed into her apron so I would not hear her from the house. I did not hear her. I was in the south field. I came in for supper, and she had baked a pie. There is an entry from 3 weeks before she died. She knew she was dying. The doctor had told her, and she had asked him not to tell me, and he had honored her request because she paid him in cash from a tin she kept behind the flour, the same tin I had once used to pay the doctor who delivered Daniel. She wrote, "Joseph still does not know. I will tell him on Sunday, after church. I want one more week of him being only sad that I am tired, and not afraid." She did not tell me on Sunday. She fell on Saturday morning, in the kitchen, and she did not wake up again. The last entry in the diary, is dated the Friday night before. It says only, "For Joseph, if he ever asks." Which is the same line she wrote on the first page, 53 years earlier. The book is a circle. She closed it the way she opened it. I am 91 years old, and I am sitting at the kitchen table where she fell, and I have the diary open in front of me, and I want to tell you what I have decided. I am not going to burn it. I thought I would. For a day and a night I thought I would put it in the stove and let her secrets go with her, the way she clearly wanted them to, but she did not want that. If she had wanted that, she would have burned it herself. She had 3 weeks. She had every Saturday for 53 years. She left it in the cedar chest, wrapped in muslin, tied with blue cloth. She wanted it found. I think she wanted me to know, finally, that she had loved me. Not the easy love I imagined for 60 years. The love of a girl who picked me first and never looked back. The harder love. The love of a woman who chose me again every single night by the light of an oil lamp, who took the truth that would have hurt me and folded it small and put it under her cap, and who did this for 53 years without asking me to thank her. The blue cloth, I have learned, was a piece of the dress Lydia was buried in. Anna sent it to Rebecca after the funeral. Rebecca kept it all those years, tied around the book that held her sister's name. I am going to give the diary to our daughter Mary, with instructions that she read it when I am gone, and then give it to her own daughter, and so on, as long as the women of our family wish to keep it. I am going to ask them not to share it with the men. I do not say this out of bitterness. I say it because I think Rebecca wrote it for them. I think she wrote it so that one of her granddaughters, someday, sitting up by a lamp with her own pen in her hand, might know that she was not the first woman in this family to carry a thing alone, and might decide, perhaps, not to carry hers so long. The lamp on Rebecca's side of the bed is still there. I lit it last night, for the first time since she died. I sat on her side and I opened the book, and I read the entry from the night we were married. She had written, "He kissed me on the forehead before he blew out the candle. He did not know he was kissing a stranger. I will become someone he knows. I have all my life to try." She did. I knew her in the end. I just did not know I knew her until last Tuesday. I am going to blow out the lamp now. The crickets are starting in the wall. For 60 years I thought that sound was crickets. It was a pin. I know the difference now, and I will know it for whatever time I have left, and when I am buried beside her I will know it still, and that is enough. That is, I think, what she was writing toward all along,